There were more games on Thanksgiving today. I will spare you some analysis on the Cowboys and Giants if you want analysis on that. I'm sure there are plenty of Giants and Cowboys fan pages who also didn't cover the game because they'd rather spend time with their family on Thanksgiving. But check the ESPN highlights. I'm sure they'll have something for you. A game that was really interesting, not because it was competitive or close or even fun to watch at times, but there were narratives that teams were trying to flip. And there were narratives at some point in this game where you're like, maybe they're going to get broken, maybe they're not. Here's where it is. Let's start with the Miami Dolphins. Let's start with the losing team again. The jury is out on Tua Tagovailoa. We know what he is. He is officially in the Dak Prescott tier of quarterbacks. Tua Tagovailoa is just left-handed Dak Prescott with about the same amount of mobility, maybe a little bit more mobility. Both guys are uberly overpaid. Both guys are super valuable to their franchise. And without Dak Prescott on the Dallas Cowboys and without Tua Tagovailoa on the Miami Dolphins, they're a tire fire. But just like Dak Prescott, we know what Tua Tagovailoa is. He's not a postseason quarterback. He's largely overpaid, but really valuable to his team. Because we saw what happened when this team didn't have Tua for a few weeks. They were a real-life tire fire. But the story is out. The book is out on Tua Tagovailoa. He's not a postseason guy. He's not going to carry you to a Super Bowl. And his inability to play well in cold weather is just so obvious at this point that you can look at the statistics and they'll fool you. 37 for 46, 365 yards, 2 touchdowns, sacked 5 times, a passer rating of 114. If you just look at that box score, you're like, what are you talking about? Tua was awesome today. I watched the game. It was a lot of dink and dunk for a really long time. And then when they got down big, he took advantage of some prevent coverages. But Tua, it's official. He can't play in any element that isn't indoors or sunny and 75 degrees. He's not alone. There's a lot of quarterbacks that can't do that. Brock Purdy is in that element where he's not great outside of a perfect light conditions. Jared Goff, there's statistics out there that he's not the best in inclement weather. But Tua is what he is. He's Dak Prescott. Roughly the same amount of money that both guys are making. Both uberly overpaid. Both talented. Both won't carry you in the playoffs. Both can't win a Super Bowl. But are still very valuable to their organizations and will keep each team viable and interesting. You could do a lot worse than Dak Prescott and Tua Tagovailoa. But you could also do a lot better. And Tua, there's a reason why he doesn't have very many playoff wins, if any at all. If I'm not mistaken, Tua doesn't have any playoff wins. And there's a reason why that when conditions aren't perfect, he's not the same guy. And just like Dak, he'll always be good. But matched up against guys like Jordan Love or Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, who are all three in his conference, he will always look small. And that's another thing as well with the Miami Dolphins. The story is out on Tua Tagovailoa. He's not the guy to win them a Super Bowl. And I understand why they paid him. Because it was a long time since Dan Marino, and they were doing a Ryan Fitzpatrick and just nonsense at quarterback for years. I get paying the guy when you know he's at least viable and keeps your team interesting. But they've put themselves in quarterback purgatory. They will always be floating around playoff positioning, but with Tua Tagovailoa as their quarterback, it'll be just like Dak Prescott. They'll never be able to win multiple playoff games in the same year. And really quickly, just about the Miami Dolphins as a whole, they have to change their identity. They've got to mix things up in the offseason. This identity of speed kills, it's not working. And it hasn't for some time. I think Mike McDaniel is a very bright head coach. Some of the play schemes he had today were just filthy. And he made that game interesting towards the end outside of, for some reason, teams just refuse to hand the ball off on the 1 yard line to their running back, but that's neither here nor there. Outside of that, Mike McDaniel is very smart. But this identity of speed kills, it doesn't work in the NFL. A Lamborghini is really fun in 75 and sunny and the top down. But once you have to get in the nitty gritty and you have to travel to Green Bay or you have to travel to Buffalo or Kansas City, it's better to have a four-wheel drive vehicle. Tyreek Hill is fun, but he is kind of small and he's redundant to what this Dolphins team is. I would hold on to Jalen Waddle and see what you can get for Tyreek Hill in the offseason. I would try to become a bigger, more physical football team because that translates better from 75 and sunny in Miami to when you have to go on the road to frigid temperatures in Kansas City. Miami's got to change their identity. They've got to go from Maserati, Lamborghini speed kills to a tough physical football team. And I'm not sure if you can do that with Tua Tagovailoa as your quarterback. Maybe at some point they just make a change. I don't know. But I know you have to do something because what you're doing now isn't working. And doing the same thing over and over again, we've heard that a billion times. It's insanity. Now let's talk about the Green Bay Packers. This was also, the Lions and Packers, it's crazy because both teams are in the NFC North. And, you know, it's funny. This is almost an NFC North podcast because I'm going to talk about the Cardinals and Vikings next. But the NFC North is just loaded. And the Green Bay Packers are a part of that loaded NFC North that is just phenomenal. The Packers they seem to be just a step behind the Detroit Lions. But what they are the San Francisco 49ers, very similar to the Detroit Lions, but even more so. They are the San Francisco 49ers of a few years ago with Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle, all those guys in their prime, but not with Brock Purdy at quarterback, with Jordan Love. I've been so high on Jordan Love and his ability to fit the ball in windows and clearly play in frigid temperature and it not bother him. Big, strong kid with a massive arm, similar to Brett Favre, but a little bit more conservative than him. He's not quite the gunslinger Favre was, but he's also not quite as precise as Aaron Rodgers was. He is almost directly in the middle, but I would give it a little bit more of a nudge towards the Favre era. But there's no way this Packers team, if it's not this year, in the next 4 to 5 years, doesn't win a Super Bowl. They are one of the youngest offenses in the NFL. And man, let me tell you, that Jaden Reed kid, I don't know how they don't get the ball to him more. There was times where he wasn't on the field. I don't know if he's dealing with an injury. I actually think he might have been, but he is electric. He is Deebo Samuel for the Packers from the San Francisco 49ers reference that I just made. But that team, I just can't quit them. There's a reason why the Green Bay Packers were my preseason Super Bowl prediction to go up against the Kansas City Chiefs and win the Super Bowl this year. Because Jordan Love is phenomenal. He does some things that will make you rip your hair out, but there is no doubting the talent. He's mobile, he's got a massive arm, and he's got a short memory. That guy will sling it. Combined with all the talent they have around them, Jaden Reed, Josh Jacobs, which was a phenomenal signing, Kraft the tight end, Dontavian Wicks is like their 5th best wide receiver. With Matt LaFleur running the show, and that defense that is starting to look better this year, and just the organizational shield that is the Green Bay Packers that just bleeds competency, I just can't quit them. And it's why I feel so good about them going into January and potentially February and late December, because they have the makeups of a Super Bowl team. They have the quarterback. They've got the weapons. They are the San Francisco 49ers with better quarterback play of a few years ago. Instead of Brock Purdy, it's Jordan Love. If you stuck Jordan Love on the 49ers last year, I think they win the Super Bowl. That's the difference. And when you add the capable head coaching and the structural, competent organization that is the Green Bay Packers and all the weapons and the defense that's starting to play better, and they continuously draft and developing well, this team, I just can't quit them. And if they made the Super Bowl this year, I would not be surprised. They have everything you need to go into any type of climate, any type of atmosphere, and win. And it's why, at this point, I'll stick with them as my preseason Super Bowl prediction to even now. And partially because it's just not fun to switch up your prediction. But some thoughts there from the Dolphins, some thoughts there from the Packers. I have seen enough of the Tua, Tyreek Hill experience. That team's got to break it up. And on the complete inverse, I just could not quit the Green Bay Packers. They are so infatuating, and it just makes me feel even better. Or I'm so infatuated with them, but it just makes me feel even better. That when everyone said, hey, don't get rid of Aaron Rodgers, and I said, what are we doing, guys? If they're getting rid of Aaron, they know Jordan Love can play. And it just feels good to be right on that one.